Also a best-selling author, and even introduced the warm-up acts for the Pope's recent visit to Hyde Park in London. So would you welcome, please, Carol Vorderman. A bit like that.
I missed the boo at the
end.
No,
they didn't do the boo. I was saying, lads. Thank you. Delayed reaction, satellite link. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Looking extremely well, if I may say so.
Thank you very much, yeah, very well.
You are welcome to the programme, newer programme. We were Saturday last time, Friday.
That's right, yeah.
But you were...
Confused me.
You were working with the Pope recently. That's a bigger gig.
Well, obviously everybody knows that the Pope came over to the UK in September. And I was asked to host the Papal Vigil, which was one of the really big events. It was the one in Hyde Park, which I was quite surprised about, to be perfectly honest, because I was brought up a Catholic and went to Catholic schools and so on in North Wales. And I had a phone call from Father Andrew, who was organising that particular event, and he said, well, you know, would you like to co-host it in the afternoon? And I said, well, Father, I have to tell you something, you know, I'm divorced twice. And Catholic, so you know, really need to think about that. And he said, don't worry, I know about that, my child. I've Googled you. I thought, oh, we've come on here. But it was actually a tremendous event. It really was.
Yeah, you enjoyed. Where did the Catholicism come from in your family, Carol?
Well, it started when my mum was brought up as in North Wales, and then she met my father when she was quite young. I think she was 18 or 19. And he was a Dutch Catholic, and so she went and married in Holland and converted to Catholicism then. And she, you know, has remained a Catholic, very staunch Catholic ever since. And so when the three of us were born, we went to the local Catholic primary school and then the Catholic comprehensive school when that opened. So,
and that's where it all came from.
That's where it all came from.
Your father is a slightly tricky character to get a handle. You write about him at some length, and he left your mother and when you were a little baby, isn't that right?
Well, yeah. My mum was pregnant with me, and she'd already had my brother and sister, who were about 8, 9 years older than me, and she was pregnant with me, and I write about this in the book, and I've written about it because it's something that's affected me all my life. When my mum was pregnant, my father was having an affair, and he was about 40 years of age at the time, and unknown to my mum, obviously, at the time. He was having an affair with a 16-year-old, and a couple of weeks after she came out of hospital with me, he said that this lady had been looking after him while she was in hospital, and that she should go round and thank her for looking after him, making his tea for him and everything. So my mum kind of did herself up and went round and thanked the lady, who was the mother of the girl that he was having an affair with. And a matter of days later, he then said to her, oh, you know, I've fallen in love with someone else, and that's it. So it's kind of without ceremony, really. And then he drove my mum, me as a baby, I mean, I had no kind of consciousness of this, obviously. But my brother and sister did, to the station in Bedford, because mum was going home to North Wales, which is where she grew up. And that was it, turned on his heels, and that was it.
It's terribly sad.
So I didn't meet him till I was 40.
And that was the next time you met him, so to speak, was it?
Well, he used to come up in the early years to see my brother and sister, but he would never have anything to do with me.
Why? But you were only
nothing. I was tiny, I was a little toddler, and he would never kiss me or hug me or anything to do with me. Which, as I got a little bit older, you know, you start to think, well, you know, people get divorced, that happens, but why that utter rejection? And I think, in fairness, it's something that has spurred me on through my life. I've always wanted to kind of do better, be better, not be better, but you know, be successful. Look after my mum, which I do, and my own children, and kind of be very, very independent. It's had that kind of effect on me.
So which is a kind of positive effect out of a very negative story.
I think so. Yes. And when I was getting married, and I said to mum, I was in my 20s then, and I said, well, I think, you know, get married. You think it's time, big olive branch, don't you? You think,
of course.
Okay. So mum rang up he was then remarried with 2 girls, and he was a very good father, I have to say, to his to my half sisters. And she said, you know, Carol would like to invite you and your family to her wedding, and he said, I don't think so.
Oh dear.
And that was it. And as an adult as well, it was.
But yet you did meet him then, didn't you?
I did meet him when I was 40. He wrote a letter to me when I was in my 30s, and I knew it was coming, and I could see the postmark on it from Bedford, and I just didn't open it and return to sender. At that point in my life, I just thought, oh, I don't really need all this.
Yeah, to hell with him.
But when I got to 40, and I thought, you know, by then he was an elderly gentleman, and I just thought, well, I don't want to go to the point where I don't have the opportunity of meeting him.
How was the encounter with him?
Well, it wasn't, you know, you see it in the kind of Hollywood movies, and you think, oh, you know, and it's all hearts and flowers and all of this, and sudden gushing love, and everyone's in tears. Yeah. I mean, he was very emotional, but I wasn't really. I mean, I didn't feel, I never ever had the conversation with him, because I didn't think, what was the point by then, really? You know. Do
you think it affected you? You said it informed your life in some respect. Did it affect you, like your relationships, that kind of thing?
Do you think so? I think, yeah, I do. I'm not very romantic, so I have my moments, Ryan.
I believe you.
But I'm not a kind of.
Are you colder for it?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not cold. No, I'm very, very loyal and staunchly so. Yeah. But I just have to retain that independence.
So it makes it hard to have somebody else there.
I can't be dependent on somebody. Okay. I find that very difficult. Yeah.
You're single now.
I am single now, yeah.
And are you enjoying that?
So. Well,
the single life?
So.
It's only recently. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
sorry, I wasn't.
Last few months. Yeah.
Okay, so so that's quite fresh for you then.
Yeah, it is. It's quite nice actually.
You're enjoying that.
I'm very happy. Yes.
Okay, because when you're back to what you were describing there as a non-dependent person.
Yes, I suppose so. Yeah.
So that's kind of probably. Why did you devote an entire chapter in your book to detox and dresses?
Oh yeah, well I thought about, because obviously there'll be a lot of ladies who will be reading the book. Yes. And one of the things, about 10 years ago, when I got to 40, I lost a lot of weight. In my 20s, I was always like a size 8, size 10, something like that. And then, because I was 29 when I got married to Paddy, and I think I was about a size 8-ish then. And then, as soon as I had Katie, that was 92, she's 18 now, and I just put on the weight, I just couldn't lose it, and it just kept piling on and piling on and piling on. And then about 8 years later, I lost it all on the detox, and there was a lot of interest there, and I had tens and tens of thousands of letters from women who were in, oh, there's me.
Yeah, that's one of your...
Yes, I'd gone up to about a size 16, which I know a lot of women are, but it was unusual, you know, it wasn't, I didn't feel natural in that
What were people writing to you saying?
Well, they were just saying that they'd been through the same thing, and what happens, I think, particularly with working mums, is that you get very tired. Yeah. You know, and it's about, you go home and you make the kids their tea, and then you eat what's left on the plate, cold beans on toast, speciality, and you just eat because you're just constantly tired. You don't have a good night's sleep for years, and so on and so forth, but you still have to do the work during the day. And there are millions and millions of working mums who go through that.
Of course. What worked for you then? What worked for you to
Well, with a detox, it was just that I think I just got to the point where I just got fed up of hiding all the time. Yeah. And I felt really tired, I felt really, really exhausted. And a girlfriend of mine had done it, and she looked amazing, and I thought, well, if she can do it, I can do it.
Not only, look at the blue dress. I mean, I have to show the blue dress.
The blue dress,
yeah, this became quite famous.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder why.
That was a bit of a transformation from the one you'd seen before.
Well, there you are.
Yeah, it was only hanging on there, wasn't it?
Yeah, just by a thread, literally.
But that was at the BAFTAs about 10 years ago, and that was when it all sort of, you know, went crazy, really.
Because that started, I suppose, a debate as to what to wear and when you should wear it, I suppose.
And all of that, yeah. I always say I'll wear what I like. Thank you.
Well, there's some other beautiful pictures of choice moments for you. I mean, that's gorgeous.
Oh, that's nice.
Very elegant looking, and there's a slightly a bolder look we have just to show everyone at home that you can vamp it up with the best thing if you wanted to.
Oh, I say, I've still got those trousers. They're a lot tighter now, I tell you.
You're heading towards a significant birthday.
I am,
Am I allowed to talk about that?
I'm 50 on Christmas Eve. I'm Christmas Carol.
Yes,
and,
of course. 50 in fairness. Like.
Yeah, 50, yeah.
In fairness. You look spectacular.
Actually, I'm going to start telling people I'm a lot older than that, and then they go, oh,
Yeah,
64, they go, oh, she looks amazing.
She's very good for 64.
Yeah, brilliant. And when you're at Christmas, I don't know if there are any Christmas babies in the audience here, but when you're born around Christmas time, you never have a party.
Will you get the double up presents, the tight-fisted ones?
They say that.
Happy Christmas and birthday.
Yeah, Christmas and birthday. I'll get you a really big one this year. No, they don't.
Cheat.
So what I'm saying is that I've saved up all my party vouchers basically over the 50 years, the parties I've never had, and I'm going to have 50 celebrations over the next year. So things like my friend Mandy and I going wing walking, that'll be one, but it'll be seen as one of my parties.
What, wind walking?
Wing walking.
Wing walking, what does that mean?
It means that you stand on an aeroplane and go, why am I doing this?
Well, that could be your very last party if that's, if that doesn't go according to plan.
Yeah. Tank driving.
So you're going to do all these things, are you?
Definitely.
Okay. So that's so what else are you going to do in the next little while? What can we expect?
Well, in a few weeks' time, we've got the lovely Pride of Britain Awards, which I hope everybody's had a chance to see.
Yeah.
And that's massive this year, because we have a new government, as you know, obviously. So the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister and Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall are coming this year. And the Emperor Simon Cowell is also coming.
Oh, he's coming. The Emperor's coming.
The Emperor,
that's
yeah. I mean, it's just astonishing. And I know the stories of the winners, who are our unsung heroes, you know, and they're just fantastic.
Well,
and I love that.
Here
it's our 12th year.
Good. So it's going really well for you.
Yeah,
well, you look $1 gazillion. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it, Carol.
Thank you
it's always
very
nice to see you on the program.
Thank you, Ryan.
Carol Vorderman, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And you can read more about Carol and her story in her book, It All Counts. That is it for part 3. We've also a best-selling author and even introduced the warm-up acts for the Pope's recent visit to Hyde Park in London. So would you welcome, please, Carol Vorderman. You are welcome to the program, newer program. We were Saturday last on Friday.
That's right, yeah.
But you were
confused me.
You were working with the Pope recently. That's a bigger gig.
Well, obviously everybody knows that the Pope came over to the UK in September.
It's a bit like that.
I missed the boo.
Oh no, they didn't do the boo. I was saying, lads. Thank you. Delayed reaction, satellite link problem. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Looking extremely well, if I may say so.
Thank you very much, yeah, very well. And I was asked to host the Papal Vigil, which was one of the really big events. It was the one in Hyde Park.
Yes.
Which I was quite surprised about, to be perfectly honest, because I was brought up a Catholic and went to Catholic schools and so on in North Wales.